how is it possible to predict the future? And then the beings of light said to me, easy, because humans and humanity are predictable. And I said, how is it possible to be predictable? Because we are habitual. The more habitual we are, the more predictable we become.
We all have a destiny because we all came here for two main reasons. One is to learn, and the other one is to make amends, fix what we may have done wrong in previous lives. But here's where free will comes in play. I could have dismissed the message. I could have ignored it totally and keep up with my life. Uh, Now that means that I make a total shift from my destiny. Well, yes, because of my free will, out of ignorance, out of lack of interest, whatever it could be. But if not completed in this life, I might have to do it again in another life.
So just with going back with what Francisco and Ingrid were saying, I do believe that being told that my life was going to be ending at a very young age, that I was not going to be able to get married, have a family, have a college degree, everything, every single thing I've accomplished to my age now, my 60-year-old age now, everything I've dreamt, everything I've visualized has come to reality. How can that be if everything that doctor said, my prognosis, my diagnosis, was completely opposite of what my life has been? Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to one more episode of In Dying I Began to Live. My name is Ana Cecilia Gonzalez.
Here, Ingrid Honkala.
And Francisco Valentin.
Well, welcome, everybody. We have an amazing topic today. Is it destiny or free will? Isn't that a huge topic? And yes, we're gonna have today this amazing topic where we're gonna share with you what we. This is something you've been asking constantly. Well, what is it? Is it really free will or is it destiny? Well, I'm going to start by giving my opinion about this, and then we'll keep on with everybody's. But I've always thought about this, that I do believe that we create our own destiny with our free will. So I think that's the bottom statement that I want to make, because I do believe that we have a free will to develop our own destiny. And in my own experience, having been born with a very difficult heart condition, I was told of a lot of things that were going to happen to me. You're never going to grow up. You're never going to be able to marry. You're never going to. There's a lot of things that my parents were told that were going to happen to me. So it seemed like my destiny was already settled because of my heart condition. So the question I would ask, is there a way that we can change our prognosis and diagnosis as a medical condition that you're given when you're a kid? How can we change that? Well, what I've learned with my life is that yes, we can change those things. So I'm going to let Ingrid speak. What do you think, Ingrid, about this?
Wow, yes, I love this topic and I am exactly on the same page. And because, yeah, people usually ask me, but what is I am just the term, my life is already tied to a destiny, and then where is my free will? So, yeah, that's the question. Like destiny or free will. And I say exactly the same thing, both. Both. I said that, and this is incredible because it all depends on our own actions and how habitual our actions are. If we are repeating exactly the same way we behave, then of course we're creating, and it's like it is the way in which we're marking our future. If every time I'm repeating the same things, then how I expect to have a different result. There was a moment in which, in this beautiful connection with the beings of light, I asked them, because I have been able to, and it happened in people that are able to access and predict future events. And I asked them if we could say that there's no destiny, then how can we predict the future? How is it possible to predict the future? And then the beings of light said to me, easy, because humans and humanity are predictable. And I said, how is it possible to be predictable? Because we are habitual. The more habitual we are, the more predictable we become. And to give you like a little example of this, or just an analogy, imagine a storm, imagine a hurricane. And like how people start running all these models to predict where the storm is going to go. Once you know the way in which the storm is behaving, then you run all your models and you know the path the storm is going to take. And like here, or here, that's us. So as we start acting the same way, with our free will, the way you just said it, Anna, I am choosing the way I respond to things or react to things, then I am already creating my reality. I'm creating my destiny. Then
Your
at that
destiny.
point, like in the predicting models, I could say, oh, the storm is going to go this way, or this way. So I just to start with something like that. What do you
Warming
think?
this up.
Yeah.
Yes. Warming up.
Yes, actually, I like your analogy. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. In my specific case, I would claim that we all have a destiny because we all came here for two main reasons. One is to learn, and the other one is to make amends, fix what we may have done wrong in previous lives. Uh, but but even though we do have a destiny, our free will is the one that make us going, like for example, like the analogy that you gave about the pattern that we're going to take. Just to give you an example from personal experience, when I died in 1979 due to a car accident and I came back, I spent my whole life learning things that I didn't see at the time because I was too involved in the physical world. And when it came time for me to do my second chapter of my life at age 50, a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice to remind me of an agreement that took place back in 1979. But here's where free will comes in play. I could have dismissed the message. I could have ignored it totally and keep up with my life. Uh, Now that means that I made a total shift from my destiny. Well, yes, because of my free will, out of ignorance, out of lack of interest, whatever it could be. It doesn't matter. But if not completed in this life, I might have to do it again in another life. Actually, that's what I was being told, that if I didn't finish my job, I'll have to continue in another life. And that's why some people, and here's the predicament. Some people say, well, I didn't choose this destiny. Why do I have to go through all this suffering? Oh, wait, hold on. That's a topic that we have already addressed in previous chapter. Look back to our previous videos, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But let me go back to Ana Cecilia so she can explain and go deeper into this subject.
Yes, you're touching a very, very uh, difficult for some people topic to understand, which is the pre-agreements. And I do absolutely, all of us know that. Otherwise, let me go back a little bit. When I was a little girl, I said, why is God so unfair that I have such a complex heart condition and I'm alive and so many other children are dead? So there's something must be wrong here. So it was like for me finding justice, trying to understand how can God be unfair if He's the Almighty God? So the only way I could come at peace with this is understanding that there must have been something that I chose before I came here to precisely what Francisca says, to grow, to be my better self, to deal with things. And then the free will comes when I have all these tools in this realm. This is what I came with. I came with a heart condition, very complex. I came with beautiful parents that were helping me and guiding me. I had means to work with. My decision was what to do with the tools I was brought into this world. And that doesn't mean that everything had to be perfect to be able to have a beautiful life. No, you can have a beautiful life with whatever you came in if you use your free will. So the only way I could understand that I had peace in my heart, I said, okay, there must have been an agreement before I came here, and I must have chosen to come with a heart condition. And now my decision, my free will is what to do with this. So I always saw this that I had two options. One of them was to get miserable and do a pity party about everything, for me and just me and why me, or be responsible and take acknowledgement of what I had and choose the other option, which is to live life to the fullest and try to be happy. That was my free will. So, yes, destiny is marked with what we decide, with the elements we are born with whatever you will have a very different life than I have. But what we have similar is the choice, the decisions we make with what we are born with. So just with going back with what Francisco and Ingrid were saying, I do believe that being told that my life was going to be ending at a very young age, that I was not going to be able to get married, have a family, have a college degree, everything, every single thing I've accomplished to my age now, my 60-year-old age now, everything I've dreamt, everything I've visualized has come to reality. How can that be if everything that doctor said, my prognosis, my diagnosis, was completely opposite of what my life has been? Well, I think that this starts precisely when you start acknowledging this is who I am, this is who I have, what am I going to do with this? And stop whining about everything. So I'm going to put a word there just for Ingrid to continue with this. I started with the word being grateful, thanking everything. I was very grateful for being alive, for having a free will to decide today I decide to be happy. That is my free will. Well, but you're sick. Well, I don't see myself sick. I just see myself with a different condition. And that's my decision to see myself as a beautiful being created by God that decided to be happy today in spite of whatever. So being grateful is a word I want to put out there. And that's also a free will, deciding to put my destiny out there, being grateful with my life. So what do you think about that, Ingrid?
Wow, very, very, very powerful, Anna, because this show us something very important. Nothing is set solid in stone. Even we have
Yes.
pre-planned, even we have had, because we've been talking, like Francisco said in other videos, about um, the law of cause and effect. We're carrying all the fruits of our actions. And yeah, we may pre-plan, so we will come here to evolve, to grow. to expand. If we came here to sit in the couch and do nothing, then we're wasting all our life experience. And like Anna said, what an incredible thing. The beings of light always show to me like a conveyor belt made of like two V's, the V of victim or the V of victory. We
Wow,
can
I like that.
always choose, and that's the beautiful
I
thing.
like that.
It's never late. We cannot say, oh, yesterday we remain in the victim, then we're never going to move on. We're going to be stuck. But every single day of our life, I can choose, like Anna said, I can choose to be grateful. I can choose to see the glass half full and not the glass half empty. How can I use my experiences and write it down? What are the things you learn from it? What are the things you were able to prove how resilient you are? You were able to test how strong you are, how powerful you are, how wise you are, how incredible you are. So it's like, who were your allies? Who helped you know this process? So it's like, take note of the things that have worked, not the things that didn't work. And that way, every moment of your life, you can make that decision, victim or victory. And one more thing before we move on with your wisdom, Francisco. But I always say with this pre-plan, imagine another analogy. Imagine that you come to this life, or in this life itself, you pick a university, you pick a college, you pick a career. So say that your plan is that I'm going to go to this college and I'm going to become a carpenter, a doctor, a psychologist, or whatever you pick. And then now, yeah, you have at that moment with your free will set a destiny. And at the end of this career, I'm going to get this diploma and I'm going to become a doctor, to say something. But throughout that process, you can pick which elective, you can pick like how many years, it all is up to your capacity of choosing if you want to make it hard or you want to make it easier, if you want to do this career in 10 years or in 3 years, how hard you're going to study, how slow or fast you're going to go. That's the part where, as you set that destiny, you're also, from your free will, day by day, you're acting to make or to follow the course of that reality you're setting up for yourself. So what do you think, Francisco?
Yeah, you're very good at analogies.
I just love that.
She's great. She's great.
Yeah, because that help people understand. We do understand everything that we're talking about because we have gone through the experience. But for those who have not gone through the experience, it's a little bit difficult for them to grasp it unless we give some analogies that they can say, yeah, that makes sense.
Relate.
Yeah,
Yes.
they can relate to that. Now, let me go back to my notes. One thing that I've learned from the group of Ascended Masters that I channel is that there's free will. But there's also, we come back because of free will or by decree. And by decree, that doesn't mean that we're forced to do this, but for some reason, in certain way, we are compelled to come back. The perfect example is my life story. When I died in 1979, I brought back with me things that they were not taught in school, but I kept in my mind, although I was too young and I could not deal with that. Uh, and one of the things that I do remember telling my mother, that's I don't remember telling my mother, but my mother reminded me when I talked to her that when I was at the OR waiting to go to the emergency room, all I kept saying was how beautiful it was, and I didn't want to come back. So here's the question: why did I come back if I didn't want to come back?
Mm.
That's the part that I will go up to and don't. That's the one thing that I understood when my spirit guides told me that some people come here, not some people, either you come here because of free will or by decree. For some reason, I came back due to a decree. I didn't want to, but I had to. Or
Mm-hmm.
I chose to come back and I didn't know what were the circumstances in which I was going to come back. That's that's beyond me. But that brings that brings that word as a fact. Some come out of free will, and others as a decree. And then going back to what Ingrid said about the V and the victim or victory, I like that. Uh, some people, yeah, some people say, okay, wait, how come I came as a victim? Nobody wants to come as a victim, but we come as a victim when we don't understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we claim that we are the victim. Are we the victim or the perpetrator? Uh, Maybe we were the perpetrator and now we're coming back as a victim to know not to do it again. Or maybe you are the victim, the so-called victim, and victim is because you don't understand, but you have to, you're coming here to learn a process. This, many people have said, and I agree with that, uh, this is a school. Earth is a school. The University of Life is here on Earth. So we're here to learn. And what we're learning is like, let's go through the analogies that you're very good at it, Ingrid. It's like if you go to the university and you flunk. Why did you flunk? Why didn't you pass the test? Because you didn't study? Because you weren't paying attention? And now you're the victim because you flunked the test? Think about it. And now I pass it on to Ana Cecilia.
Wow, that's great, Francisco. It's a lot to think about. I'm going to ask a question that, well, if you guys want to get into it, but I was having a conversation with Ingrid the other day, and this is something that I've been thinking constantly. When is it that, and a lot of you, the audience that are listening, have always heard this or talk about this, like, okay, I just want to do God's will and thy will be done. Those things that are in the Bible that we constantly hear, like we say, well, okay, let it be God's will. Well, that was God's will. Okay, so it was his will and not mine. It was, well, I can't do anything because that was God's will. Well, but what about if we are in agreement with God's will? So whenever we say that will be done, it's that you are agreeing to be in that will. So that's your will. It's not others' will. So it's very easy to go into the victim mode when you, well, that was God's will. What can I do? Wait a minute. So then you are fighting something that in it's like when it's constantly being the victim when we say, well, I had nothing to do with it. Well, I think you had everything to do with it. You just haven't noticed, like Francisco said. It's like, well, you're not understanding this game. You're not understanding this beautiful life. So when Jesus Christ said that, and when we also say that, like, that will be done, is like my absolute will, free will to say, I'm in agreement with what's happening. Because otherwise, it's just going to a denial, and denial has never taken us anywhere. It's going through a lack of acceptance of how things are. And let me put you an example. Let me give you an example of the way I understood what Ingrid and I were talking about. Is if I was when I was born and I understood, I was 7 or 8 years old, when I understood that I had a very complex heart condition and that most probably I was gonna die. That was it. It was, and you understand it's at 7 or 8. So if I would have gone through the denial mode, no, Why me? This can't be possible. No, no, no. I do not accept that I'm sick. I do not accept that I have this condition. I do not accept it. Well, I could have died very soon in a denial mode and being the victim, being the poor me. But what happens if I go to the acceptance mode? Okay, I have this is real. My body is in this condition. Now, what am I going to do with my life? So it's not that I've had two open heart surgeries, several ablations. I've gone through tons of procedures, but it is not that has made it. It's not my heart being different. It's the way I cope with things that is different. So
Mm.
being in agreement, being in an acceptance of and letting things flow in the way things are, it's the only way you are in an ability to have possibilities for things to be different. So the first thing we have to do, this is what's real. What am I going to do with it? And I'm in agreement with what's going on in my life. And then not only being in an acceptance, in a gratefulness, being grateful, and in a loving way. And I always like to put this love in this, because when you really embrace things with love, you not only accept things, but you expand the possibilities for things to be better, different, and in an, in a in a way that you can really grow and expand and do the purpose of your life. So I asked this question. So is it really like what Ingrid and I were talking? So when we say, well, that was God's will, no, it was my will, and that's why I say things be done. Thy will be done, because that's my will. So what do you think about this?
Wow, Anna, this is so powerful. I have so many things to say. My mind is like, I could go in every
I
direction.
know, I know.
But I love what you just shared because, when I was going through the worst of my victim moments, the worst of my struggles, and the worst of my depression, I went into deep, deep prayer. And incredibly, my feeling was not to ask God to change things, to change the outer God, change this and change that. It was God help me see and going to the place that also Francisco brought about, help me understand, help me see with the eyes of clarity, help me see because I cannot see. I have lost the way. So it's incredible that this is, and you're just saying it so clearly, Anna, this is about taking responsibility. It's not leaving it like, oh, it's everybody's fault. It's out there. Is where is my part in all this? And is being responsible of that free will. And then, this bring me to another important place, and is that people many times misconstrue that they're not really having the clarity of what free will is. Many people think that free choice is free will, but it's not. Free choice, I can choose the career that I am studying, I choose the clothes that I'm wearing, I choose the food that I am eating. But you guys want to know something? The food I eat, the clothes I wear, the career I pick, the things I do are mostly conditioned by our culture, by our family,
Right.
by our environment. So that is not free will.
Free will.
People say, oh, but what? I choose this. That's free choice. The only moment when you're really choosing your power, your free will, is when you're able to stop, pause, go within, and choose victory instead of victim. Is
It's
when you,
inside.
from within, you access the place of inner wisdom, inner power, and you choose to see. You at that moment is the free will of wanting to see things with the eyes of clarity, with the eyes of understanding. Say that you're in a moment in your life when the path is you, and this is another analogy that I like to give. You can pick the path of, and I call it the cul-de-sac of suffering. You can pick the road where there's a cul-de-sac and you keep going in circles and say, me and poor me, and look what God did to me, or look what my parents did to me, or my teachers did to me. Or you can pick the path to say, what is this for? What is this trying to show me? What is this trying to teach me? How with this and this is also the path of what Joseph Campbell said, the path of the hero. How can I use these experiences to prove that I am resilient, that I am strong, that I am a powerful, wise being? And that's why it's called the light of awareness. I bring light and understanding and clarity, and that's the true free will. It's the moment I decide to connect with God in reality. Please give me clarity and bring that light of awareness into my life. So that is when, instead of going and acting from reactivity, I act from the place of an answer, wisdom, response. I become response able. So I leave it to you,
That's
Francis.
great. Great.
Yeah. Let's answer your question, Ana Cecilia.
Okay.
God's will. Uh, in fact, that is a very controversial subject for many, because many of us, I including myself, have been taught that God, if you do something wrong, oh, that's God punishing you. That I learned that since I was a child. Oh, that's God's will because you did this wrong. That's what happened to you. That's God punishment. And we have been raised with that belief system where God is going to, if something happened to you that you didn't expect it, that's God's will. Well, that's the will of everyone because I can be a victim out of the free will of another person. Let's say, let me give you an example. Someone is driving, someone gets distracted by the cell phone, answering a phone, you get involved in a car accident because of the lack of action from the other part, act of responsibility out of their own free will, and now you are part of the whole process. It You can claim yourself to be a victim if you want to, choose that state of mind, but those are things that happen that you need to learn how to deal with it. It's not that God gives to some and take away from another one, because how come you have a healthy life and the other person have a miserable life? That's God's will, and one time only.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's kind of twisted. Now, uh, that's another aspect of our conversation is that I've known a lot of people that they wants to swim against the current. They're going into this direction. No, they want to go into that other direction. How many times are you going to hit the wall until you realize that that's not your path? I mean, we all have been there. And I am one that have learned the hard way. It's something that I want to happen. It doesn't come through. I stop and think, and then I might try it again. If I get the second no, that's it. Ah, and I got a perfect example. Before I before I received the message from before I became a channeler, I moved out of Puerto Rico, which is my hometown, and I moved to Florida. Everything lined up, and I still to this day don't know what made me. Now I know, but at that time, what made me do this change? and I was an insurance agent, and I had my own insurance agency. It was a very profitable business. I sold it and I moved to Florida. When I moved to Florida, with the money that I got from selling my portfolio, I wanted to start a business in the financial industry as well because I already had 30 years of experience. So it's going to be a piece of cake. But guess what? Door after door after door kept closing on me. And I was banging my head against the wall, trying to figure out how come after 30 years of experience, every single door kept closing. And I went almost crazy trying to figure out what a big mistake did I do until the day that I received the message from the group of ascended masters. And moving forward
Yes.
out of free will, out of understanding the process, I said, okay, now I get it. Now I know why I'm here. So, so this is a message to the audience, to you who's listening to us. Uh, stop banging yourself against a wall. If it's not opening, is because that's not your path.
Anymore.
As much as you want to make it happen, it's not going to happen because it is not within your path. And then some are going to say, yeah, but there's free will. Yes, but there's free will. But remember, you come here because out of free will or decree. So which one is it? And that's where your not the knowledge, but your wisdom. That's where your wisdom comes in. Where you, like Ingrid said, you stop, you make a pause, you reflect, and then after reflection of seeing all the angles, now you begin to move forward, surrendering to your present condition. That doesn't mean that you're gonna surrender. Oh, poor me, and I'm surrendering, and God's will. No, 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 no. Surrendering is understanding your path and going in alignment with your path. See? So now let's go back to Ana Cecilia.
Wow. So I'm going to take everything you said and Ingrid to put it in a child's life. I was thinking, what does a person in jail does? It's a victim, it's somebody that didn't even commit any crime and it's in a jail. But then I thought about children that are also, because there are things like what Francisco says that we cannot control. Mostly if you're a child. Mostly if you're a child. I mean, it's like you are the victim of what's happening around you. But what does a child do? Like if he was in jail, like an adult, if you strain him, you cannot go out of this room. Maybe because of, let's imagine, because of war, or because there's a lot of danger out there. You cannot go on a bicycle anymore. You cannot go. But just imagine that 5 year old or 6 year old. What did they do? They do exactly what Francisco and Ingrid were saying. Usually we don't think about the power of just stopping, going back one step back and thinking. Just imagine a little child that he's told, no, not this, not that, not whatever. Maybe he'll cry for a moment and then immediately he turns around, looks someplace else, and starts playing. He moves on immediately and stops being the victim. A child, if he's a normal, healthy child, he would immediately try to find a way how to play again. And he's going to turn to another place. He's maybe going to take a broom. He's maybe going to take a paper. Just whatever it's around, and he'll make out of that a game, a game to play, a thing to move on. So what are we doing with our circumstances we can't control? So just imagine you are like in a situation. That's why I say jail. Just thinking about Nelson Mandela, just thinking about others that should have never gone through what they went through, but their free will, their decision was to not be in a victim mode and in jail or like a child. A child, he can only for so long be angry at you. He'll immediately try to shift and move, because I was just listening to a meditation where when you're going through a lot of things that are not working, The first thing that you should do is just to pause, move a step back, and receive a different information. And that's what a child does naturally. That's what people that are really raising awareness do naturally. Like, wait. This is what's happening. Maybe I cannot control it, but what I can control is my decision of what to do with it. And this is a book what this Viktor Frankl said in his book. It's not what happens to you, it's with the decisions you make with what happens to you that's going to make a difference. So there's where our free will is. There's where our choices are. So it's not really what's happening to you, like Francisca just said it incredibly, is why were doors closing? It's not because he was a victim, it's because he had another path. And they were going to be closing over and over until he backed out. And this was a beautiful voice that got to him. And maybe we don't need it to be like with how Francisco or how Ingrid is saying, but if we really take a step back and just try to meditate, close our eyes, usually our senses, we receive more information when we close our eyes and go inside. Everything you need to know is in you. Thing is that sometimes we don't listen because there's so much noise out there, and we think that the information we're going to receive is from outside when it's always been inside. So I invite you all to get this wisdom that Ingrid and Francisco are talking about from within. There's nothing that you don't know that is not already in your knowledge inside us. So, yes, you have the free will to do that. Step back, think about it, and say, what am I going to do with this that I cannot control? But what I can control is to step back and think and receive and know that there's a purpose behind this and that the shift in your life could be precisely with your free will of deciding to listen to yourself. So
Wow.
I think this has been an amazing talk. I've
This
enjoyed every piece of it.
this is so powerful. I want to bring something in relation to this, Anaya, and is that the words that you both are using are so wise because without stopping and going back, accessing the root cause of what created all this other stuff, we will not find the solution without looking for that clarity, for that depthness, for that insight. Is always go back to the center, know thyself. And it's when we realize that the outer is just a projection of the inner. I remember, I'm going to give you this very amazing experience. One day, my husband came and he said, I'm going to go and get a massage because I'm having this very bad back pain. And then I said, okay, go to get your massage. And when he was leaving the room, the beings of light said to me, he's not going to heal. And I said, wow, that's so mean. Like, how is he's not going to heal? And they said, no, because he's at the effect and not at the cause. So is once we put ourselves at the effect and become a victims of what is already being created, then we keep playing the same game. And they gave me another analogy. They said, Ingrid, imagine that 1 + 1 = 2, and that's a reality. And people waste hours of their life, energy, everything trying to change a result. Look, 2 is 2 and it's not going to change. So what do you have to do? Go to the inside, change the equation, go to the inner, remember, replan, redirect, restructure, take responsibility. And from there, you create a new equation. 1 + 2 = 3, new reality. And that is also, you know what is powerful about all this conversation that I'm loving to have too, is the realization that we're not puppet. I mean, we can be puppets of the reality. We choose to be at the effect. We choose to keep resisting and fighting the outer reality we already created. Or we can choose to be creators. When I go to the root cause, when I pause, when I access that inner wisdom, I start working, I don't know, you guys have heard this, that time is operating in the horizontal and in the vertical. Horizontal is our habitual state of being, like a ruler, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that the next is 5. But the moment I pause, I access the vertical. I access the place of being a creator, to cut with that habitual way of being and become the creator of my destiny, my reality. I leave you, Francisco.
Well, Francisco, anything else before we
Yeah,
close up?
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, let me briefly bring up one particular subject that Ioana brought up about being on jail, the innocent being in jail, because
Yeah.
that's another aspect that some of our listeners might be saying, yeah, but what about this
Yeah.
injustice, the injustice of
Yes.
this
Yes.
world?
Injustice. Yes.
Well, let I don't want to say it this way, but for everyone to understand me, unfortunately, we live in a world where there is injustice, and we need to deal with it. Like for example, Ingrid said, Mandela, he was he was put in jail for so many years, but look at the attitude that he took toward his incarceration. Uh, Jesus, he only preached for 3 years and he was killed. He was murdered, and all the other I don't know, I don't remember their names, but those who begin to wonder about the stars and the planets and everything, they were incarcerated because of
Killed.
heresy. So
Yes.
so unfortunately, we live in this world, but it is part of our learning process to, hard to say, but forgive those who transgress against us,
Mhm.
and do the best we can with the environment that we lived in. Just like Anna said, she was born in a body that had a lot of difficulty trying to express itself in this world, and many others. I I died in a car accident and I came back. I didn't want to come back, but here I am. I'm making the best out of it, and I'm glad I did came back, because there's another aspect that people keep saying, well, if I were to start all over again, I would like to be or do this and this and that. I don't go through that route because I don't know what that route is going to take me. And this is the present time that I am here now, expressing myself in the way where I'm expressing myself now. And I tell this to everyone that comes with this, saying that they have spent all their lives suffering and going through this and going through that, but you're still alive. You're still here. You have survived. So it's not that bad. It can't be that bad. Oh yes, it is very bad. Only if you become the victim. And that
Mm.
is, to my understanding, that this is the whole message that we want to bring to humanity. That is,
Yes.
that everything is a state of mind. And
Mhm.
that's what you need to bring forward, your state of mind, and not the culture or the injustice around the world. I mean, look at the world we're living in here today. It is full of a lot of injustice, but we're still here. But we're learning. We're learning from those injustices, so we learn not to do it in the next life, or change our attitude or change our behavior because of what we see. So, and just to closing, and I want to be in this very personal issue, that is that uh, one day I told my father, Thanks to you, I learned not to drink because he drank a lot.
Mhm.
Thanks to you, I learned not to be unfaithful to my wife because he was unfaithful to his wife. And a few other things. And that is because I chose to take his experience and learn from his experience, not to do it myself. And that's the attitude that we need to take. We see that someone is doing wrong, learn from that and say to yourself, I'm learning not to do that. And that,
Yeah.
trust me,
That's called wisdom. That's called wisdom.
that is wisdom.
It's
Yes.
not only knowledge, it's wisdom.
Yes.
So,
So, Ana Cecilia, wrap it up.
so just to wrap it up, I would say free will or destiny. I think it's everything. I mean, being alive is one of the greatest gifts I've ever had, in spite of whatever. So the free will I have has created my destiny. And yes, it's my decisions, my free will, and just keep the best of this. I think we've had an amazing talk, all of us. Please, don't forget that anything that we say here is from our own knowledge and experience. But your questions are so important for us because that's the way we create new content. So yes, it's your free will that creates your beautiful destiny. Well, thank you very much, Ingrid. Francisco, I don't know if you want to invite everybody to just follow us, just wrap it up the way you always do.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Ana Cecilia.
That's
Uh,
our free will.
yeah.
It's our free will.
Take your free will. Thank you, Ingrid. Take your free will and do the best out of it by sharing this video with everyone you know that might benefit from it. Because as we express our gratitude to this beautiful message, you become part of it by sharing that with others. And the more we are, the better we're gonna be in a better world because we're gonna be more like-minded people. And as we grow, we keep expanding, and it's only thanks to you. So share this message with everyone. Don't keep us a secret, and ask your questions. And with that, I leave you until next time.
See you next time. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, thank you so much. See you next time.